The 8-6 Colts travel to the 10-4 Cardinals. The Cardinals are kind of reeling. They've lost 2 consecutive games. After winning 7 consecutive games to start off the season, they've gone 3-4 in their last 7 games. What's wrong with the Cardinals? Well, you could say that, they're injured and all that stuff. Well, everybody's injured. You could say that they haven't stopped the run. Well, they haven't stopped the run. When teams go too tight in formations against this team and slam the ball down their throat, they've got problems stopping the run. That's what happened last week against Detroit. Detroit just ran the ball right down their throat. And you don't think Indianapolis coming in this game with the league's leading rusher in Jonathan Taylor over 1,500 yards isn't going to go with the same blueprint against the Cardinals. The Cardinals have always struggled in the second half of the season with Cliff Kingsbury. They did last year and the year before, and they did his years in college. They're struggling again right now. You can say with this offense they're banged up a little bit. Well, that's fine. Everybody's banged up at this time of the season. You mentioned that. Kyler Murray needs to do a better job protecting the football. But I'm looking at the Colts. Carson Wentz, not a great game last week, 5 of 12 for just over 50 yards, but they ran the ball down the Patriots' throat. Jonathan Taylor was spectacular. 170 yards on the ground and a 67-yard rushing touchdown, Coach. I look at this matchup, and it doesn't look good as a matchup for the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, I have to agree with you to a certain extent, Mark. Everybody talks about Jonathan Taylor, and I'll tell you, I do thought he was a great back for Wisconsin, but I didn't know he had the breakaway speed. When he went 77 yards against the Patriots last week, I went, wow. And he scored a touchdown in, 17 straight games? If he scores a touchdown this game, he will tie the record for the most touchdowns or most games where he scored a touchdown. But the guy who doesn't get credit enough is the coach of the Colts. He has done a tremendous job by putting his faith and confidence in Carson Wentz. After Carson Wentz was with Philadelphia, I didn't think there was any way in this world he could be on a championship team. But he has thrown, Mark, 23 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's protecting the football. Pittman has 68 receptions, almost 900 yards. And you just look at the Colts. They're coming on very, very strong. They're getting close to overcoming Tennessee. The Cardinals, I thought earlier in the year they were a great football team. They were playing better defense than they are at the present time, and they're trying to rely on the big play. There's no doubt about it. The Cardinals can move the football, but the Colts have a very, very good defense, and because of that, I think the Colts are going to prevail in this football game, 31-28.
That's a good score, but I think the Colts are going to run away with this football game. You look at the wide receiver position, and you look at DeAndre Hopkins. Since he's been out, he's on injury reserve right now. He might not come back until the playoffs, and that's a player that Kyler Murray depends on. He's his go-to guy, particularly in the red area, and that's a hole that they haven't been able to fill with the other receivers that they had, and they just look like they're out of sorts against Detroit. And I cover this team. I'm watching this team, and they just don't look like they have that killer instinct at this point in the season when they need it. They kind of remind me of last year's Steelers. Remember the Steelers with that great start? They were 11-0. They're going to go undefeated. Yes, they are. And then they end up with the last 5 games, losing 4 out of the next 5 games and walking basically into the playoffs, not even getting a decent start going into the playoff. That's the kind of feel I've got about these Arizona Cardinals, that they're not going in and they're not finishing the season strong. I think the Colts come in and just ravage them and run the ball right down their throat. I think it's one of those games where the Colts win this game 34-13.
Oh, I don't think it's like that, Mark. I think you're far underestimating how good the Cardinals are. The Cardinals are at home. Make no mistake about it. But when you look at this game, you think, well, playing on the road, you have a different team every week, Mark. You say, well, they're different. Because of personalities, different things happen. You might have problems at home, and it affects you. Your injuries, a variety of different things. Sometimes the defensive cornerback matches up well with your receiver, or you happen to have a pass rush end that can overcome an offensive tackle and disrupt the rhythm and timing. So there's so many things that go into it, but I think it's going to be a much closer game. But I think the Colts will find a way to win it because they can run the ball.
I know Vegas has them as a 1-point favorite, the Cardinals. I think the Colts should be favored in this game the way the Cardinals are playing, but still, we'll go on with it. We both like the Colts.